he was a Gotti of Brooklyn. He, did the firework displays, did the parties, was untouchable. Give us a little bit about, like, did you have any experience with Spero? And was he the Gotti of Brooklyn? Give us kind of your thoughts, Frank.
No, I've seen Spero a couple of times within like a wedding or a funeral, and even the kid Fabrizio, I met him as well.
Yeah.
And there was only one Gotti at the time I was growing up. There wasn't like the Gotti of Brooklyn or the Gotti of Staten Island.
What I mean is, I believe he was a powerhouse. In my opinion, he had a lot of guys under him.
The thing I never understood about him is, and all due respect to him, and God rest his soul and whatnot, Joe Messina didn't have a lot of guys higher ups that he couldn't control. If he felt that this guy one day could be his guy going against, he wouldn't have him in those positions.
Got it.
He had Canarella up there, had TG up there. He just felt threatened, and he had Baldo as a soldier to stay as a soldier.
Yeah,
there's a reason for that.
You mentioned TG, so I'm curious about this. I don't know if you know this, but so this guy George from Canada, right?
Yeah,
I knew him also.
Okay, so the rumor was he called TG a quote
a drug addict,
fucking junkie or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the rumor.
Is that way? And a lot of people think that's why he was removed.
That was what we got to understand within our group. Yes, that he made a comment that every time he goes to see TG for whatever, they go to meet whatever, he seems like he's all coked up, and that was what got him killed.
Wow, I guess that's enough.
But I think there was ulterior motive to that. I mean, Giorgio was one of those guys that probably Messina would have to worry about. He goes to Canada and comes back, hits and runs. That's somebody Joe had to worry about. So I figured he killed, he killed a bird with two stones. You know what I mean? Well, two birds with one stone.
You were talking about the people around Messina, right? So his main man was Salvatore Vitale, right?
His brother-in-law, yes.
Look, I don't know. I know way more about Messina, but something about Vitale always it rubbed me the wrong way. He seemed like there was something going on with him. Tom, do you get that feel with him? If you found out he was a cop, if you found out he was a cop the entire time, Tom, would you be surprised?
No, that's
a correction officer.
Right. How does that not preclude him from?
That's big. Sammy brought that up. That would have got Joe killed at one time for sure. Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up, he's a cop and you're making him your underboss.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. But
Joe pulled a lot of moves. He was a ultimate manipulator. He was really good at it. Back to Sal. Sal ran the family while Joe was in jail. You know that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he ran it, and that was for like a good 6 to 7 year span. He committed like 3-4 hits during that time while Joe was in 3 or 4 while Joe was in prison, and he was getting dirty. The only problem with him was it seemed that little things affected him, and he started bullying his guys too. Like Tony Green, for example, hated Sal Vitale, and they were always lobbying for Joe's love there. You know what I mean? They hated each other. Sal was abusive.
Interesting. Now, you caught the era of, and it's interesting because I think this is my opinion. Sorry, post-COVID cost. The Banana Sicilian faction and the Gambino Sicilian faction, I believe, like one kind of went down, like the Bananas and the Gambinos kind of prospered. You were the era of there was a lot of Zips still around, a lot of Sicilians, and then it kind of got Americanized. What happened during that transition? Did the Sicilians like Messina? Like what? Like, I want to know, like when it started.
There was no Sicilians left that actually gave him a little bit of a run for his money.
Yeah,
they were in jail. They died. They were getting older.
Yeah.
John Gotti happened. A lot of things got Americanized. Double kissing in high school became legal. I'm kidding. Like in my high school, that was a joke. A lot of stupid stuff,
Yeah. Talk about guys that might have been a threat and actually none of your business. None of your business. I like that. Cesare Bonaventure. He was a rising star, and he ends up in a drum in New Jersey. You know, as far as your understanding, what happened there? Because he was a rising star with you guys.
A lot of double talking on Joe's side on that one. He said Rastelli had to do it, so he had to do what the boss had to do. He doesn't go himself. He sends Louis Haha, Sal Vitale, and Bobby Haha's there, and Pete Calabrese to the hit. You know, God forbid it goes wrong, Joe gets killed. And they end up killing him over Caesar getting mouthy with Rusty. But you know what happened there? I think Caesar didn't think something was going to happen to him. He kind of underestimated Joe Messina's. Probably thought they were clowns, these guys.
Interesting.
Did you know Vinny Asaro?
Yes.
Any thoughts on him?
What you hear is what you get. It's accurate. Gene not too far off. Not far off at all.
And on that same thought, did you know his nephew, or is he too?
Sure. All right. So at one of my charges was for dealing with them was a gambling charge. We were doing bookmaking together, and that was one of my charges at the time. We used to meet up every Tuesday with Ronnie, my guys. I was around the crew, and Ronnie and his uncle. We used to meet up at his restaurant every Tuesday just to go eat and talk and shoot the shit and talk about the sports gambling thing. Yeah, I mean, I knew them well.
What'd you think of that monstrosity of a home he built? Was that a good idea? Or
You know, it's funny because I mean, Vinny was always fucking yelling at Ronnie for doing knucklehead shit, and that's
that was some knucklehead shit there.
yeah. And he'd be like, "Poor guy."